area. And luckily for me too, going to 2 great colleges where they're also playing good basketball. Look at the Georgetown Hoyas did this year. Shout out at Ewing. I mean, just again, great quality basketball. So for me, again, just finding the right opportunities and people to believe in me. Being very involved in the community is also important to me because I would not be who I am or where I am today if people didn't believe and pour into me. And so I'm big in, reach back, give back, right? Each one, teach one, and to whom much is given, much is required. And so I like to keep busy. I really do. And it's just been a whirlwind to kind of just keep writing my story, and a blessing to not only now work in media, but now be teaching media to the next generation journalists.
That is so cool.
So amazing.
So cool.
And I want to ask, and I know here we're down to the last minute here. And before we let you go, Kelsey, I want to go ahead and ask, being a woman in sports, especially not only media, but in sports media, it's not easy, industry and to get into. And I know from some of my people that I do know, women specifically, it's how challenging it can be. What advice do you have that you can share for either someone struggling through it now or looking to get into sports media that can maybe help them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to, I always say bet on yourself. And I say bet on yourself because it means believing in yourself, which means investing in yourself. The best thing that you can do as a woman in this industry is one, believe that you can do anything that you put your mind to. And then 2, I think it's one thing to believe, but another thing to put action behind that belief and behind that dream, right? So that means if I want to be a broadcaster, I'm joining professional organizations. I'm finding opportunities to build my reel, right? I'm networking with individuals. I'm buying myself podcast equipment, right? I'm practicing in my home. I may be hiring a voice coach. And I tell people all the time, if you want to invest in a car, right, you'll buy all the pieces needed. If you want to invest in your house, right, you're always trying to renovate and find the newest things to put into it. And, with our bodies even, right, if you're trying to keep in shape and healthy, but you need to think of your career that way. I think as females, because naturally, unfortunately, we're the underdogs because we're underrepresented in media, you have to show people that you're here to stay, right? And that means you're always being innovative, always growing, and always keeping them guessing. So I always tell people, bet on yourself and make sure you not only say you want to do something, but prove why you want to do something. And so for me, I think having longevity in this is taking it seriously, being professional at it, making sure that you always show up to be your best self, right? Making sure you're doing the research, making sure you're doing the homework, and make sure that everything out there is your best quality, right? Because when people Google you, you want them to see the best version of you. And hopefully that's who you always are, but also bringing your authentic self to work. Show what makes you different, show what makes you you, and why they should hire you, and why viewers are attracted to you. So I think as females, always know that even though you're the underdog, that you're still a dog in that fight, and that as a dog, you're going to protect your own, right? And you're going to be hungry, and you're going to fight for more. But when you invest in yourself, others will invest in you. And I think that's been the biggest piece of advice that I've gotten. And that's the advice that I always give. Because if you invest in yourself, no one can steer you wrong.
Thank you, Kelsey. So great advice that you just gave. And, not only myself, I'll be sure to follow that and get back to that. There's a lot of truth behind that. And hopefully many can find it useful. But thank you once again. Great to have you on. Looking forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you for having me. It's such a joy. You guys are awesome. I will be tuning in to more shows, and just keep up the great work, truly.
Kelsey, how can people find you on social media? Give out your social media information.
Of course. So the easiest way to reach me is my website, KelseyNicoleNelson.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, The Real K Nelson. And then I'm old school, so I still have Facebook. You can also find me on there, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And help me Ed Connected on LinkedIn, even add me, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And I look forward to talking with everyone. I love to chop it up and talk sports and everything else. And of course, especially when it comes to DC sports, always have some good stories. And I hope everyone checks out my show, Listen In with KNN, that airs weekly.
All right, Hoya, Terrapin.
Awesome. Go, girl. I love it. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And have a great night show.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Thank you, sis.
Bye. Oh my gosh, that was amazing to have her on. A lot of great, not only, baseball, but also basketball, talking playoffs, so much that we got to cover with Kelsey. And great advice.
Great, wasn't she?
Yes. She was phenomenal. So we are almost down to, the last bit of our show here. Just about to be over. We have a few minutes left. But before we do that, or before we sign off, I should say, let's go ahead and talk a little NFL. What do you think, Ed?
Sure. We got about 3 more minutes left. We can knock out some NFL in that 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it. So I just want to go ahead and talk a little bit about Patrick Peterson, fellow Arizona Cardinal. He wrote a very touching, I would say, letter. I want to call it a letter. But there's a piece out in the Players Tribune, and where he said his goodbye to Arizona and the fans. Did it make you cry, Ed? It made me tear up a little. It was very, very touching and very, very personal.
It was. I loved how he just went up and down. He didn't hold back when he talked about his situation with his type 2 diabetes when he was diagnosed with that back in 2014. When Bruce Arians was there in 2019, he tested positive for PED. So he didn't hold back on any of the things that were kind of detrimental to his career, but at the same time, he gave love to all of his former teammates, like Darnell Dockett and Larry Fitzgerald and Adrian Wilson and all these other players that played alongside of him, and Rashad Johnson and all the other guys. But the main prevailing theme in there was to thank the state of Arizona and Arizona Cardinals fans for the 10 years that he gave them and the love that they shared back to him for Patrick, for everything he's done for the Cardinals organization, and where he's gotten them to where they are right now as an organization with all the success that he had at his position. He was one of the best cornerbacks in the National Football League, and still is to this day, even though he'll go to Minnesota, be a Minnesota Viking and do the same thing. But the decade he spent here in Arizona was incredible. Multiple Pro Bowl nods. And he was just one of the most dangerous cornerbacks, a man that you would not want to throw to if you were a quarterback. Quarterbacks would steer clear of any side that Patrick Peterson was on. And that showed just how much respect that other teams had for Patrick Peterson, whether it's here in Arizona, if a team came here, or if the Cardinals were on the road. That's how much fear Patrick Peterson put in the hearts of opposing offenses.
Yes. I really loved reading his story, and he touched a little bit on, everything. This is where he started, and how not only, the team, but those involved, the players and everyone in the organization made him who he is today. Not only the player, but also the person, the personal things that he gave to everyone, to even Bruce Arians,
Michael Bidwell.
Michael Bidwell.
The entire training staff at Rod Graves.
Yes, thank you. I can remember the name. Thank you, Ed. And just about, him, getting married and the kids and his health issue, you mentioned it, his health issue or his health scare, even. One of the things is that I stuck to Arizona as his home. And how he looks forward to coming back, and just when he is back, being that or feeling that, having that feeling when he comes back to Arizona, when he comes to play, whenever that is, and feeling that once again, walking into the stadium, walking through those doors, in that corridor that he used to walk through when he was a player here. Because now he's off to Minnesota, the Vikings. And a whole entire new journey, and how he, also what he touched on is an average career for a football player is 15 years. So he's hit his 10-year mark. He has, I'm hoping at least 5 more years in his career, and how he's going to make it be the best of his career, and be even a better player, or looking to be a better player in those 5 years that at least minimum he hopes to have left.
If he does 5 more years and he does 15, we thank him for the decade of service that he did for the Arizona Cardinals and everything he meant to the state of Arizona and to the fans, and how much he was giving of his time, everything he did from a philanthropic standpoint, from all the time and money he donated to various organizations. That's priceless. It
is. He has left a huge mark here in Arizona, not only with, being part of the Arizona Cardinals, but like you said, everything and that he gave to the community as well. So that was very touching. I shed a tear or two, I'm not gonna lie.
I remember all the great press conferences and all the great chats that Patrick and I had, like when I would cover the Arizona Cardinals. He couldn't have been a nicer man. In every event, he's big into cars, so he's really big into muscle cars and older cars and just redoing cars, and that's one of his passions outside of his wife and 2 daughters, of course. But he's one of the nicest, most down to earth men you'll ever meet. And you would, if you met him on the street and didn't know he was an NFL football player, you wouldn't even know it. He'd just be a regular guy. That's how much of a great guy and how grounded and how you can tell he was raised right by his mom and dad, that Patrick Peterson turned out to be the man that he is today.
Yes. So I thank him once again for everything and wish you the best in your new team, in your new journey, and hope, just nothing but success. Continue.
Absolutely.
Success.
Go kill it in Minnesota, except for when they play the Cardinals.
Yes. But I know when he does return to playing the Cardinals in the stadium, that we're all going to welcome him with open arms, and we will all be standing and cheering for him, although he will be wearing the opponent's jersey. That's
okay. It is what it is. Guys move on. Careers change.
It's part of life, right, Ed?
Yes.
And speaking of, we are down to the last couple of minutes here, wrapping up our show, and want to go ahead and lead off with you, Ed, where all of our listeners can find you.
Of course, right here on Inside Sports Talk on our brother PLR's show, The Sports Cave, on Mondays and Thursdays, once I get back to an actual regular schedule. On Twitter at EdCole43, Instagram at EdwardCole301, and Edward Cole on Facebook.
Anything else? Good. Got it all?
That's enough. Yeah. That's
a mouthful.
Your turn. Yeah.
Well, you can find me, Johanna-Rosalye, on both Instagram and Twitter at JRosalye. That's JROSALYE. And go ahead and make sure you follow Inside Sports Network on Instagram at Inside Sports Net, and Twitter at Inside Sports. Add an extra S at the end. And make sure you listen to our podcast, Inside Sports Talk, and download from wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And I think I covered it all. My brain is like...
Thank you, Facebook and Twitter, all of our friends on Facebook and Twitter that tuned in. Thank you, Kelsey.
Yes.
Nicole Nelson. Thank you, sis, for jumping in back home in the DMV. She's great. She was a great guest.
Yes, she was amazing.
She will be a regular for sure.
We definitely will have her on again soon, and more often than not, for sure. But thank you, everyone, for listening in. And this was Inside Sports Talk. Have a good night.